Man, it's been a minute since I've dropped a documentary that's been super controversial like this, okay? But it's happened. I've just released a new documentary on the main channel, and I'm already in big trouble. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm already in big trouble. Okay, so look, I'm gonna tell you a little bit of background about what I've done, why I might be in trouble, and how hopefully we're gonna resolve this situation. Okay, so just 2 days ago, I released a new documentary on the main channel, Murder Memphis, how 12 people died for young Dolph. Now, people have been on my case for months and months. Do a young Dolph video. I obviously did do a video about young Dolph, kind of loosely related to what happened to him over on this channel, like probably over a year ago now. It was mainly about Yo Gotti's brother Big Jerk and how he passed away and how allegedly a lot of people have been sliding for Dolph. But I took my time. I came back with this. This is a 2.5 hour full-blown deep dive. It's even longer on Patreon, okay? And I basically break down so much backstory that you've never heard before. A lot of people have done videos about young Dolph, but nobody's really gone this much in detail. And the thing I really wanted to get to the bottom of in this video is exactly why young Dolph and Yo Gotti were beefing so heavily. Like, what is it? What actually is going on between these guys where things got so bad? Now, one of the reasons this video is so controversial is because I'm kind of putting down a slightly different narrative than you're used to in this video. Now, this is no disrespect to young Dolph. I'm a huge young Dolph fan, okay? But through the course of my research, watching a lot of other videos, following the trials, following the cases, it seemed to me that in a lot of ways, like, you could argue that young Dolph was the antagonist in this beef. I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not saying it's justified, but as you're going to see, like, there's a lot of things that happened way back in the day where it seemed like young Dolph really was antagonizing Yo Gotti and you know, maybe kind of applying pressure. And look, the narrative that young Dolph was kind of so innocent and they were trying to shoot at him all the time, that, you know, that is fair. That's one way of looking at it. But from a lot of the stuff that I found during my research, it seemed like young Dolph was really applying pressure. They're saying Yo Gotti got shot up a couple of times. You know, there was a time he got shot. You know, young Dolph got shot at 100 times. He was in a bulletproof truck. I'm hearing Yo Gotti got shot at a bunch of times in a bulletproof truck. So this wasn't a one-sided beef. This was a serious conflict that young Dolph was a big part of. Unfortunately, he is the one who ended up losing his life. But I kind of recapped everything in this video, and I really tried to trace back the actual, like, the original from the very start, like the OG origins of this beef and how it all got put together. And now apparently I've upset a few people with my analysis. So what I think would be good is if we kind of maybe like recapped and had a little listen to just some of the backstory from this video as far as actually how this beef ended up getting started. And then we're going to lead up to something that I said that allegedly has really upset some people in Memphis, man. So let's just have a little recap. We'll look at some comments and then I'll tell you why I'm in so much trouble. Your star. During the 2000s and 2010s, the gangs of Memphis would increasingly splinter into numerous small neighborhood cliques, or what the police call hybrid gangs, made up of members that rep many different traditional gangs, like the Bloods, Crips, GDs, and Vice Lords, and some would become so popular or infamous that they attracted youths far beyond the active core members. And as people would later reminisce on social media, if you grew up in Memphis in the late 2000s and early 2010s, there's a chance that you repped one of these gangs, such as the Trula Mafia, Goon Squad Mafia, Fast Cash Boys, Fam Mob, King Gate Mafia, or Young Mob. These gangs came from roughly two different parts of the city, North Memphis and South Memphis. In North Memphis, the most infamous gang was likely the Fam Mob, which according to Memphis police was started all the way back in 2000 and was still active in areas like Frayser, North Haven, Raleigh, and Millington, although their main headquarters were at two low-income housing projects in Frayser, the Ridgecrest Apartments, which they called Afghanistan, and the Greenbrier Apartments, which was named Iraq. According to the lore told by the police, Fam Mob was started by a group of 8 youngsters who were kicked out of the Gangster Disciples because they were acting so wild they were bringing heat to the entire gang. And the name. So I just want you guys to understand what's going on here, right? Look, the Memphis streets are extremely complicated, okay? There's a lot of gangs from other places in America, as I said, Bloods, Crips, GDs, Vice Lords, and now you've got these young guys, okay, Fam Mob. It's a bunch of youngsters who even the Gangster Disciples said, you guys are too wild. You're wilding out way too much. Like, you're actually taking things too far. You're doing too much. It's like, and so that's how serious these streets of Memphis are getting. Okay, you got guys that they're too wild even for the GDs, and they're starting up their own groups. Okay, and this young mob, Fam Mob beef, all of this stuff was so important to the origins of the young Dolph, Yo Gotti beef, and I just feel like nobody really touched on this, but obviously I've gone so deep that some of the people have actually got upset. Fam, according to the cops, is actually an acronym that stands for F Almighty, with Almighty being a reference to the Vice Lords, who were also known as the Almighty Vice Lord Nation, as Vice Lords were also very active in North Memphis, and Fam Mob were clearly not fans. This is why the gang would also spell the name FVM, meaning that the A is inverted to disrespect the Vice Lords. Fam Mob would grow up to be 150 members strong by the mid-2010s, and they'd often end up in the
local news for committing crimes from assaults and robberies to drug and gun sales and even murders. And the city would eventually set up safety zones at the Ridgecrest and Greenbrier projects that banned members of Fan Mob from associating with each other in public. But during the early 2010s, the members of Fan Mob would also start a music group known as the FMG, with at least one meaning for this moniker being the Finesse Music Group. This crew included rappers like Bezel, Source, and Birdo. The Ridgecrest apartments where the Fan Mob had their so-called headquarters, according to the Memphis police, are the very same projects where Yo Gotti originally hailed from.
This considered the Bay area. We just left the north, now we're in the Bay. This Ridgecrest, that's where your boy started out at, right here on these same streets.
While Yo Gotti would also rep another area in North Memphis around Garland Street and had even been associated with Fan Mob's enemies, the Vice Lords, in some rumors, as he would rap on the 2017 song One on One with YFN Lucci and Meek Mill. He would seemingly become somewhat affiliated with the Fan Mob during the 2010s, and particularly the FMG crew, who were often repping Gotti's CMG label on social media, with some FMG members also rocking CMG chains.
So I explained all of this, right? Because I think it's so easy for people to get lost in the sauce about Yo Gotti versus Young Dolph, Paper Route Empire versus, Creative Music Group or Cocaine Music Group, I think it was known at some point, CMG. But all of this stems from these old school gangs in the 2010s, all right? And Yo Gotti's kind of getting sucked into it. He's having sort of beefs with certain gangs, then he's kind of getting cool with them. So this gets so deep, all right? And I really, really tried to trace this back.
And guys like FMG Source, aka Source the Boss, even seemingly being part of Yo Gotti's entourage at times. Fan Mob were also affiliated with other gangs from North Memphis, such as Fast Cash, aka the Fast Cash Boys, or FCB, as well as Stack Squad, aka Stack Squad Money Gang, or SSMG. A crew who were seemingly so close with each other that the Memphis police considered them one gang, which according to them had been founded around 2011. Many of the members seemingly hailed from the area around the Raleigh Egypt High School in Raleigh. According to Memphis police, Fast Cash was also another so-called hybrid gang, with members from traditional gangs coming together, and their name too would be associated with numerous serious crimes in the local newspapers. But Fast Cash were also very popular through their music, with their group that simply went by the name Fast Cash Boys, originally including the members C Money, C Jizzle, TP Stacks, and Money, having real underground hit songs going all the way back to the early 2010s, while the Stack Squad would also drop music, particularly a rapper called Ace Boogie, who had a considerable local following. Like FMG and Fan Mob, Fast Cash Boys have for a long time seemingly been associated with the Yo Gotti CMG. Meanwhile, in South Memphis, the most infamous gang was allegedly the Young Mob, aka Young Mob Military or YMM, which was founded in the mid to late 2000s and hailed particularly from the Walker homes and the surrounding neighborhoods like Westwood. Like Fan Mob, Young Mob's name would begin to be mentioned in the local news in the early 2010s in relation to numerous serious crimes, the most tragic being the murder of a 7-year-old girl in 2015. But like Fan Mob and Fast Cash, Young Mob has also produced numerous rappers, the first one to receive significant fame being OG Boo Dirty, who would rep Young Mob in music already in the late 2000s and begun receiving national attention with his music in the very early 2010s.
So OG Boo Dirty, man, this guy was a real problem for Yo Gotti. And then he starts getting tapped in with Gucci Mane, and then Young Dolph enters the picture. But originally, this whole beef is a Young Mob versus Fan Mob. It's a North versus South Memphis, war, basically, at this point, okay?
Getting signed with Gucci Mane's 1017 Brig Squad label, the reasons for that perhaps being Gucci and Boo Dirty's shared hatred for Yo Gotti, but more about that later.
So they're clicking up, right? OG Boo Dirty hates Yo Gotti, Gucci Mane hates Yo Gotti, they're all clicking up, all right? And then you got the Young Mob and the Fan Mob, they're all kind of tied into this. In Memphis, the gangs evolve so much. They go from, they evolve, they click up, they break apart, they get affiliated with different crews change side. It is it's one of the most complicated videos I've had to do, all right? But OG Boo Dirty is a problem. We're going to hear more about him in a second.
Boo Dirty also had a brother called Stupid Duke, or Spooky Duke, these two allegedly being among the founding members of Young Mob, including also CEO or BEO Lil Kenny, and Kenny would begin to rap a few years later than Boo Dirty, while Stupid Duke would only begin to rap a few years ago after serving a 9-year sentence. Other notable Young Mob members included Big Motor, whose 2015 music video for the song Live with Kevin Gates has almost 2 million views. Kenny Money, who is also signed to Young Dolph's PRE label, and Moneybag Yo, who is originally from the Walker homes and was allegedly part of the Young Mob before having a falling out with his gang, but more about that also later. Like Fan Mob in the north, Young Mob also had a few gangs in South Memphis that they were close with, such as the Kinggate Mafia, particularly Goon Squad Mafia. Kinggate Mafia, aka KGM, hailed from the former Kinggate apartments located in the Whitehaven area, which is better known by the locals as Blackhaven. These projects are now partly demolished and known as the New Horizon Apartments. KGM also had some rappers like Ray Gutter, who dropped several songs and music videos with tens of thousands of views in the early 2010s. Goon Squad Mafia, on the other hand, hailed particularly from the Foot Homes and Clearborn Homes public housing projects, although according to Redditors, the gang was spread all over the place, likely partly due to both Foot and Clearborn Homes going through significant redevelopments during the 2010s, which forced families to move to other areas. GSM would also be active in the rap game in the early 2010s, but their most known rapper is likely none other than Key Glock, who would later sign to Young Dolph's PRE just like Kenny Money, and the two even have songs together going all the way back to the mid-2010s.
So look, right, this Young Mob, Fan Mob thing, this is kind of not really a big thing in Memphis in the modern era. But back then, you got all these famous rappers and their affiliations. You got OG Boo Dirty, Obviously, you're hearing now about Key Glock having affiliations. You're hearing about Moneybagg Yo being affiliated with the other side. Like, all of this stuff was grandfathered in as the years went on, and that's what people don't get about Memphis.
There was also another gang hailing from the Foot Homes, the Trula Mafia, although this gang would too seemingly have presence all over South Memphis, including areas like Orange Mound, where they could be seen hanging out in their YouTube vlogs, which is close to areas like the Castilla Heights, where Young Dolph hails from. Their alleged leader and the most known rapper was called J Money Trula, who would begin receiving some notable underground fame in the mid-2010s, after he would for some reason become heavily affiliated with none other than Chicago's Chief Keef. Their friendship becoming so close.
So J Money Trula, right? He's a really important figure. Okay, he's one of the most important people in this Trula Mafia set. And again, as you're going to hear, all of these affiliations begin to get complicated, and there's a big back and forth.
To the point that J Money would begin to call his gang Glow Gang Trula, or Glula Gang, in honor of Chief Keef's Glow Gang. J Money was a very respected member, and he would collab with numerous artists from different hoods, but Trula Mafia was seemingly particularly close with Young Mob and their affiliates, and J Money would make songs with the Young Mob rappers like BEO, Lil Kenny, Big Motor, and even Moneybagg Yo, while also having made a song and music video with Young Dolph that was for some reason never released. Unfortunately though, like things usually go, all these gangs were not cool with each other, as there was a major divide between North and South Memphis at the time, with particularly Fam Mob and their affiliates, and Young Mob and their affiliates going at each other hard, as can be seen from numerous diss songs and other videos that are still up on YouTube. Most notably from Young Mob's side, the dissing came from OG Boo Dirty, who would release several dedicated diss songs towards both Yo Gotti and Fam Mob in the summer of 2010. One of these songs titled simply F Yo Gotti, where he calls Yo Gotti Gotti, while another one would be a remix to Rick Ross's hit song BMF, which Yo Gotti also remixed with the name BMF Memphis, where he shouted out numerous Memphis street legends like Craig Petties and G-Train.
So OG Boo Dirty starts going at Yo Gotti, all right? We got the Young Mob, Fam Mob beef is going on. But this beef doesn't stay contained to the music. This beef ends up spilling out into the streets, and this really ends up being leading to one of the first incidents that sparked this decade-plus long back and forth that culminated in Dolph losing his life.
Boo Dirty would focus on dissing Gotti in his remix and insinuating that an incident had taken place at a club where Young Mob had allegedly tried to approach Yo Gotti and his entourage, but the Memphis police were present. Unfortunately, as these lyrics hint, the beef wouldn't just stay online and on tracks. And on the 29th of November 2010, an altercation between Young Mob and Yo Gotti and his entourage, which likely included Fam Mob members, would take place at the former Level 2 nightclub in East Memphis.
So the Young Mob, they're trying to apply pressure to Yo Gotti and the Fam Mob, okay? They pull up at a nightclub. They get into altercation, and this is where everything goes left. And really, to me, this seemed like the inciting incident for the Young Dolph Yo Gotti beef, and not a lot of people have really drilled into this.
Allegedly, a verbal altercation would first start between Boo Dirty and Yo Gotti. After a third person tried to intervene, the fight would get physical. This led to guns being drawn, and 6 people would end up getting shot during the chaos that ensued. One of the people shot was Boo Dirty himself, who would get hit in the buttocks, but thankfully, none of the injuries ended up life-threatening. A few weeks later, the news would report that Yo Gotti was wanted by the Memphis police in relation to the shooting incident. The following day, it was reported that 11 people were charged with an aggravated riot, which included Yo Gotti, real name Mario Mims, Boo Dirty, real name Lance Taylor, as well as BEO Lil Kenny, real name Kenneth Mason, who was only 19 at the time. The news.
So it all goes down between the Fam Mob and the Young Mob at this party. Okay, 6 people end up getting shot. They're saying that Yo Gotti was a shooter. Allegedly, he was involved, and OG Boo Dirty ends up getting hit himself.
It would also report that this was by no means the only charges that Boo Dirty was facing, as he already had 2 other attempted murder charges from previous shootings that had taken place only a few months earlier. One of these took place at another club, and the other was a drive-by shooting, while he had also allegedly targeted the same victims with an aggravated arson.
So this OG Boo Dirty was a problem, all right? And they're saying aggravated. They're trying to burn ops houses down and shit, okay? So this thing is out of control. And this really is from the beginning a street beef. This was never really no rap beef. And that's they're gonna skip this. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna skip this. People want to go and try and paint Yo Gotti and Young Dolph, and Yo Gotti wanted to sign Young Dolph, and Young Dolph was showing respect to Yo Gotti at a certain point, but there was absolutely no way of getting around the fact that this beef was already frying in the streets.
In January 2011, police would also arrest and charge Stupid Duke, real name Brian Lackland, who had allegedly also participated in the club incident against Yo Gotti. The altercation would become the first publicized incident between these 2 sides, but in the grand scheme of things, this was only the very beginning, and nobody could have seen at the time that this war would end up going on for well over a decade, and spilling over to include many of the most popular rappers to ever come out of the city of Memphis. While Yo Gotti, OG Boo Dirty, and their associated crews were deep in the North versus South Memphis war, a new rapper from Memphis was plotting his come-up. This was of course none other than Young Dolph, who had released his first mixtape Paper Route campaign in 2008. Dolph hailed from the Castilla Heights neighborhood in South Memphis, an area that's largely its own island due to an industrial zone, vacant land, and train tracks surrounding it from all directions. Not surprisingly then, the kids from this area would seemingly rep Castilla above all else, with one gang from this area being called the Castilla Murder Mob, or CMM, which has alleged members who were affiliated with Dolph, such as the rapper Snoop big bands, who is part of the PRE label's current roster. Dolph himself, though, was seemingly never an active gangbanger, but rather a hustler who treated the rap game with the same attitude as the dope game, starting by pushing out mixtape after mixtape in the early 2010s, such as Welcome to Dolph World in 2010, High Class Street Music 1 and 2 in 2011, and A Time to Kill and Blue Magic in 2012. Behind Dolph's music operation, and alleged dope operation before that, was seemingly his business partner Daddy-O, real name Jeremiah Moore, who came to know Dolph in the neighborhood from a young age, first providing him with the so-called package, and later allegedly helping him to finance his independent label, the Paper Route Empire.
I met Dolph shooting basketball when he was about 10 years old. It was in the hood, we were hooping. I think you look up to me, man, because I used to have that jumper and that crossover, you feel me? I had what he wanted, that package.
Because Dolph wasn't directly gang affiliated, he had seemingly no problems working with rappers from all over Memphis, and in his early interviews, he would often shout out Yo Gotti, despite infamous South Memphis gangs like Young Mob already having a beef with Gotti that had turned violent.
You know what I'm saying? Salute to all the big dogs, you feel me? Salute to Gotti, salute to my boy Juicy J, you feel me? We tripping, man, you know what I'm saying?
Gotti 3-6, you know what I'm saying? They let the world know what North Memphis is about, you know what I'm saying?
In 2012, Yo Gotti would even bring Young Dolph on stage during a show in Memphis to showcase the new talent coming out of his city. But later that same year...
So, right, what you're about to hear is exactly why this all went frosty. Because even after the Young Mob, Fan Mob confrontation, Yo Gotti, there's a big shootout, OG Boo Dirty gets hit, all of this stuff, okay? Yo Gotti is still on good terms with Young Dolph. He's bringing him out at shows. Young Dolph is doing interviews. He's saying, salute to Yo Gotti, salute to the legends, salute to the OGs. Things are good, okay? But that shooting that went down, that's going to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. And then here is the moment, really. This is probably the moment that Yo Gotti decided that he hated Young Dolph. Because he linked up with OG Boo Dirty and Gucci Mane. They had both linked up because they both don't like Yo Gotti. And then Young Dolph hops on the song with them too. Now, the question is, do you think Young Dolph really knew what he was getting into? Okay, there's been a lot of these rumors about, did he really know? Was he really low-key dissing Yo Gotti? Or was this thing where he didn't even really know how serious this beef was at the time? I'm not sure. But Yo Gotti was not feeling OG Boo Dirty linking up with Young Dolph at this point.
Yeah, Dolph would also collab on a song titled We Gone, together with OG Boo Dirty and Gucci Mane, who were both beefing with Gotti heavily at the time. The 2010 club shooting incident had at this point largely passed without major repercussions to either side, as the aggravated riot charges were dropped against Gotti, Boo Dirty, and several others due to lack of witnesses, while Boo Dirty had also beaten his separate attempted murder charge. And meanwhile, the two sides had continued holding deep grudges against each other. Gucci Mane and Yo Gotti, on the other hand, had fallen out after they both decided to drop their mixtapes on the 17th of October 2012, with Gucci obviously having a special connection to the 10/17 date, which would make him lash out against Yo Gotti.
All my label drop their mixtape on 10/17. Why would you drop it if you ain't on 10/17? And when I call you as my partner to ask you why you did, you say, oh, I didn't know you were dropping the mixtape. Now the whole world know I'm dropping this mixtape. I'm promoting this mixtape. Both me and you on the top of World Star. You with a freestyle and me with a video. But you say you're unaware that this mixtape gonna come. And I got a banner that says come out 10/17. So it just made me lose all respect for him instantly.
The song We Gone, where Dolph featured, was a simple, getting high anthem, but it was part of OG Boo Dirty's mixtape, The Definition of a G, that he dropped in December 2012 after signing with Gucci's 10/17 Brick Squad label. And another song on this mixtape was Boo Dirty's collab with Gucci and Rocco titled Rap N-Words, which was a dedicated diss track towards Yo Gotti, where the trio rapped how they can't stand these rap dudes because they're so fake. And the collaboration between Gucci Mane and Young Dolph would continue in March 2013 when they would release a full mixtape together titled East Atlanta Memphis, which...
So, Gucci Mane is putting on and showing love to a guy that had a shootout with Yo Gotti in the club. All right, and their crews aren't seeing eye to eye. Now, Gucci Mane's on some industry beef stuff. He's mad that Yo Gotti's trying to drop his mixtape on the same day as Gucci. He's saying everybody knows I drop on 10/17. It was disrespectful. Okay, so they're linking up, and Gucci is rubbing salt in the wounds. All right, he's linking up with OG Boo Dirty on multiple songs. They've got entire songs where they're saying F these industry guys, F these rap guys, they're all fake. He's dissing them. And then in the midst of that, Young Dolph is hopping on a song with these two guys. He's putting his foot right in it. And then he's doing a whole mixtape with Gucci Mane. Now, obviously, that's a good look for his career, doing a tape with Gucci Mane. But no doubt, this was seen as massive disrespect to Yo Gotti. And again, it's just that thing of like, this is no disrespect to Dolph, but I want people to understand that Dolph really was putting his foot in it and antagonizing Yo Gotti in a lot of ways over the years, where really, unless I missed something, I've not seen any shots from Yo Gotti towards Young Dolph in these early stages, but Young Dolph is hopping on songs that these guys are really having shootouts with.
Dolph would continue in March 2013 when they would release a full mixtape together titled East Atlanta Memphis, which also included another feature with OG Boo Dirty on the track Get It Back. Clearly, while Dolph wasn't yet beefing with Yo Gotti directly, he had silently chosen his side in the beef, which had appeared to be the side of South Memphis and Young Mob. Meanwhile, things in the streets would keep developing. During the summer of 2012, while Boo Dirty kept beefing with Yo Gotti on the music side, his brother Stupid Duke, aka Brian Lackland, who had seemingly also avoided charges in the Club Riot case, would get his face case blasted on the local news, as he was now a fugitive wanted by the Memphis police on very serious charges, including aggravated robbery and attempted first-degree murder. These charges stemmed from an incident where Duke and some other guys had allegedly set up a guy to get robbed by using Duke's girlfriend to lure the victim to Young Mob's territory. After the robbery, however, the victim would realize that he was in possession of Duke's phone, which would help the police go after him. But Duke, on the other hand, was in possession of the victim's phone, which also had the victim's address in it, and before the police could get after Duke, he tried to go after the robbery victim by going to his house guns blazing, leading to the attempted murder charges. Duke was eventually found guilty of all of these charges, leading him to be locked up for the next 9 years. But meanwhile, the street beef between North and South Memphis would keep escalating. In March 2013, Young Mob and True La Mafia members were seen together at a South Memphis club, where according to online rumors, they would run into some Fast Cash members, including the rapper Fast Cash C Money, who would allegedly get robbed by the leader of True La Mafia, the rapper J Money. Later that same night, Young Mob and True La members would stop at a gas station near the club, where the Fast Cash members would allegedly slide back to get their revenge, ending up shooting a 20-year-old Young Mob member named Young Key, real name Key is Sean White, who would die in his girlfriend's arms at the scene. These events would pull the Fast Cash boys into a direct conflict with the Young Mob and True La Mafia, and in the following weeks, the police would arrest and charge a 19-year-old Calvin McMickens, better known as Fast Cash Jizzle, and a 17-year-old Courtney Smith, aka Fast Cash C Money, for the murder of Young Key. But that's not where this case would end, because the following summer, when the case was about to go to trial, Jizzle, who was out on bond, and another Fast Cash member called Chopper Suge, real name Elvin Dorsey, would attempt to get rid of several witnesses in the case by ambushing them at their homes, with these attempts fortunately failing, despite the authorities finding 43 spent rounds at the scene. But the most explosive part about this incident was that according to Reddit rumors, it in fact targeted the home of none other than J Money and his family, with a screenshot of an affidavit later being posted to Reddit that showed J Money telling the police that the shooters were targeting him because he planned on testifying in the murder trial against the Fast Cash members who had allegedly killed Young Key. It seems that J Money never got on the stand though, and the Fast Cash members would end up beating the charges, as they would years later tell in their interview with DGB Media.
So what would you say is one of the biggest life lessons you guys learned?
Man, we went through it together.
Really?
Yeah, they probably were the toughest.
Yeah.
It was the toughest situation we probably been through.
Had a little charge. We had a little murder charge.
That's not a little charge. That's a major charge.
Yeah, they right there. Like waking up not knowing if you finna come home or not. You know what I'm saying? You telling your folks you finna be home this week. This next court day they sit y'all. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be strong for this shit. This shit went on for a couple years type shit.
Oh wow.
You know what I'm saying?
We overcame it though.
We overcame it. Sure.
Misunderstand.
Yeah.
Both of you guys were charged?
Yeah, we both were charged.
Jeez.
But while the war in the streets kept escalating, something would also begin to go wrong in the relationship between Young Dolph and Yo Gotti, because in October 2013, Young Dolph would release the song Scared of Me, where he appeared to be taking direct shots at someone whose name he was keeping a secret, but whose baby mother he had apparently been intimate with.
So again, right, I'm going to circle back to the J Money True La Mafia situation in a minute. But now what we're seeing is Yo Gotti ain't really done nothing to nobody at this point, okay? And Young Dolph is really putting his foot in it. He's affiliating with all of these guys that are having shootouts with Yo Gotti, having these problems. These guys are having serious situations. They're going to war, North versus South Memphis. True La Mafia are getting involved. And then Young Dolph jumps on the mic talking about, you still tricking on that girl? I still F with your baby mama? Like all of this stuff. I ain't going to say the name. The streets know what's up. And he is madly disrespecting Yo Gotti here. So look, you can go and watch the video yourself if you want. There's a whole bunch more back and forth. They're shooting at each other. Young Dolph, Yo Gotti, there's all these crazy stuff going on, all right? And Young Dolph just keeps leaning into the beef. But I'm jumping forward to basically explain to you how the J Money True La Mafia situation got worse, because essentially all of these different conflicting street beefs are going on, and then you've got these two record labels, CMG and PRE, together trying to make the most of the music scene. And that's when Young Dolph basically pops out. He signs J Money from True La Mafia, and then that ends up leading to this whole situation that unfortunately got Dolph killed, because then True La Mafia are beefing with this other crew, Double R, and it all just gets out of control. So I'll play you this, and then I'll tell you why people are really upset with me.
I've been spurring your for years. The whole city know that. Gotti, you was a. I just got back to the city. They say you trying to put charges on me and put the police on me. You send your little to do all your talking. Talk for yourself. That big head down syndrome looking hate on everybody from the city that gets some real money. You start out hating on 360. They were having Oscars and you had to hate because you were broke. That's the only way you can get attention, boy. You were broke, boy. Now you're hating on Dolph.
Towards the end of March 2016, Dolph was also captured on video telling a live concert audience about his favorite topic, sleeping with Yo Gotti's baby mother.
Check this out. Y'all know why this man. The little dudes look broke, little pee-wee. I don't even know this. But his boss know. That man. He just man called baby mama. That's all.
Look, Dolph was overly antagonizing Yo Gotti, man. There ain't no two ways about it.
As surprising but crucial piece in this brewing beef between Dolph and Gotti would end up being none other than J Money from the Trula Mafia, who so far had been close with both sides, as he had posted himself meeting Dolph numerous times throughout 2015, as well as other people associated with Paper Route Empire, and he'd even repped PRE solo by wearing their hoodie. But he had also been meeting with Yo Gotti too, even having video calls with him, as well as hanging out with Yo Gotti's shooter, Black Youngster. However, it seems that in April 2016, J Money would choose his side, as he would post several pictures on his Instagram of him meeting with Dolph and his business partner Daddio, as well as other PRE members during a listening party for the PRE mixtape Bosses and Shooters, captioning one photo by saying that he looks at Dolph and Daddio as brothers and he will ride with them, right or wrong. A few days later, he would post another photo, this time writing that he didn't give an F about what people thought about him hanging out with Dolph, and said that it was all love between them. In the coming months, J Money would keep posting himself together with Dolph, showing that they were even making music together. Moreover, based on how much he was also seemingly spending time with Daddio, it seemed that either Daddio had begun to manage him too, or he was perhaps about to even sign with Paper Route Empire. And in July, he would in fact call both Dolph and Daddio his CEOs, while also making music with other PRE artists like Jay Fizzle. Then in early August, J Money would come out with a big announcement, saying that he was joining Dolph for his royalty tour that lasted the entire month. And soon, he would indeed post photos from the tour, showing himself posing next to the tour bus during their third stop in San Diego. However, for some reason, J Money would return back to Memphis before the tour was over, and in the early morning hours of August the 20th, he would be at the Kittens Cabaret strip club in South Memphis around 4 AM, as J Money was seemingly hanging out in the club's parking lot. A shooting would take place. When the police arrived at the scene soon after, they would find an unresponsive J Money, real name Jerome White, with a fatal gunshot wound, which would end his life seemingly as he was just about to take his rap career to the next level with Dolph and Daddio. His killer was identified as 37-year-old Freddie Yarbor, who was captured a few months later, and he would eventually plead guilty to the murder, which the prosecutors described as gang-related. J Money had been highly respected in Memphis, and he was considered someone who received love in the city no matter where he went. Although in the months leading up to his death, he had seemingly chosen his side in the war between Dolph and Yo Gotti. But in the years following J Money's death, his absence in the streets would cause a domino effect with enormous consequences, causing old gangs to splinter into new ones, and eventually causing his gang, the Trula Mafia, to do a complete 180 with some of his best friends turning on young Dolph and the PRE, with all of this eventually culminating to the boiling point where they would eventually hunt down and assassinate Dolph in broad daylight. To fully understand the events that led to Dolph's murder, we need to have a quick overview of things that would take place in South Memphis, gang underworld in the late 2010s, as J Money's death in 2016 coincided with a period in Memphis when the homicide rate began sharply rising. In the streets, this rise in homicides would coincide with an increasing splintering of gangs to even smaller cliques, creating a highly complex web of new alliances and rivalries. Without the leadership of J Money, his Trula Mafia would break down, with some of the newer generation keeping affiliations with the original Trula Mafia, but also starting some new cliques, one of these being called the Ape Gang, while another one became known as Young and Ruthless, aka YNR, as well as Off the Crank, or OTC. Meanwhile, other members would move on to start a completely new gang called Double R, which stands for Rich and Ruthless. Perhaps the best known Double R member would be the rapper Big Scar, real name Alexander Woods, who still repped Trula at the end of 2016, but already by mid-2017, he had seemingly begun repping the Double R. Things would then take a deadly turn in the summer of 2018, when Double R member BG, aka Baby Grape, real name Malik Holland, was allegedly murdered by 3 Trula members, C-Mode, Lil Zay, and Go Crazy, real name Carlos Lacey, who would end up getting charged with the murder. Lil Zay would meet an...
So, look, I won't go any further with this video at this stage, but as you can see, the Memphis streets are very complicated, it's very confusing, it's very serious, and all of these things culminated in young Dolph getting killed. Now, J Money was a beloved member of the Trula Mafia, okay? Obviously, his passing led to complete fracture within that gang. Now, young Dolph and Paper Route Empire were showing love to J Money. They were putting him on. They were trying to sign him. But when he passed away, that just led to a whole bunch of these Trula Mafia members all splitting up. You got Double R, all these different groups that popped off. And then in the end, some people that weren't really on Dolph's side, they end up not rocking with him, okay? And that ultimately leads to young Dolph losing his life. And it's very, very messed up, okay? But one of the things that obviously really upset somebody, all right? I'm going to tell you now, okay? I'm going to tell you now exactly what happened. It was this moment, okay, when we're talking about J Money and them trying to invade his home in the lead up to that trial. Look, based on my research, okay, there was this paperwork. It was posted on Reddit. It was circulated. People were saying that he made a statement and then he retracted it, okay? I'm going to replay you this and I'm going to show you what people
Another
said.
Fast Cash member called Chopper Suge, real name Elvin Dorsey, would attempt to get rid of several witnesses in the case by ambushing them at their homes, with these attempts fortunately failing, despite the authorities finding 43 spent rounds at the scene. But the most explosive part about this incident was that according to Reddit rumors, it in fact targeted the home of none other than J Money and his family.
So they're saying J Money retracted his statement. The only proof we got of him is the news saying that Chopper Suge shot up a witness to Young Key murder house when he shot J Money's crib up. So apparently, okay, they were trying to take out witnesses on this case and they shot up J Money's house. Now, I did post the alleged paperwork, but to be fair, I also did post the comment saying that that's the only proof.
Was that according to Reddit rumors, it in fact targeted the home of none other than J Money and his family, with a screenshot of an affidavit later being posted to Reddit that showed J Money telling the police that the shooters were targeting him because he planned on testifying in the murder trial against the Fast Cash members who had allegedly killed Young Key.
So this basically is you know, an affidavit that was posted. It says, according to White, he's a witness to the homicide of Keyshawn White, which occurred on March 28, 2014. He plans to testify in that incident where Suge was involved. And he basically explains, White advised that he pulled into his driveway, blew the horn to warn occupants inside the residence. He ran up to the resident, and that time shots began to be fired at him. He's also this other person, who is also a witness to the homicide, advised she looked outside from the inside and recognized 3 of the men who were shooting. Young named Elvin Dorsey as one of the shooters and positively identified him in the lineup. Now, what's interesting here, okay, is that, like, they're basically saying Jerome White, who is actually J Money, okay, it says that he was a witness to, according to White, he is a witness to the homicide of Keyshawn White, and he planned to testify in the incident in which Suge was involved. Now, this is, the police have written this statement that are basically saying, according to them, that's what he said, okay, but then it's saying Young, who I believe is the female, Crystal Young, who is a witness to the homicide, she basically identified the shooters and identified somebody in a 6-person lineup. Now, I don't know if there was some confusion about this, whether they made it, whether it sounded like I was trying to say that J Money was pointing someone out, but he is mentioned in this paperwork. Okay, I can't count to the absolute authenticity of this paperwork, but essentially, okay, I'm on a different camera now because it's that serious. Okay, essentially, this upset some of the most fearsome members in Memphis. Okay, one particular person who, you know, I've had a little back and forth with. Hernandez Govern, man, the alleged mastermind behind the Young Dolph hit, okay? He beat the charges, all right? So he's alleged mastermind. We can't say that he's really the mastermind, okay? But he popped out. He saw the documentary. He said, somebody must have gave you some fake paperwork on J Money, True La Mafia, all right? So he wasn't happy, all right? He posted this. He also hit me up privately. He said, yo, we got to clear the air. I can't have no disrespect to J Money. Now, look, I really wasn't my intention to put no disrespect on J Money. I did clap back with a little bit of saltiness, okay? I did say, well, look, are you going to clear it up or are you ducking the interview? Because I want him to clear this up. And this is no disrespect, okay? I know he was ducking a few interviews. You know what I'm saying? He maybe didn't want to get down with Flacco. Maybe he felt disrespected by Flacco from No Jumper. I know he had a back and forth. Ceddy Nash said he was going to punch Hernandez Govern up, but that never happened. I don't know if he ever caught him outside in LA. I don't know if Ceddy Nash even been back to LA since then, because I know Hernandez Govern was applying pressure. So I said, look, are you going to clear it up or are you ducking the interview? Now, he responded to that once again. I'm not gonna lie, he kind of applied some pressure to me in this one. I'm not gonna lie. He said, Traplaw Ross, why didn't you produce your fake paperwork about J Money in my face? And I did bump into Hernandez Govern at No Jumper, man, and he was cool. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit scared because I done heard the stories. I know the reputation, right? He said, why didn't you produce your fake paperwork when I see you face to face? Now, in my defense, I hadn't actually seen that paperwork at that point in time, okay? This was a whole investigation that we had going on for months. When I met him, I hadn't finished the script. I hadn't got all of that laid down, but clearly he is very upset. So look, all right? I'm not ducking any fades, or I'm ducking fades, but I'm not ducking any debates, all right? I'm not trying to duck any debates, all right? I personally would be happy to sit down with Hernandez Govern, whether we do it virtually, whether we do it in person. I know he's got a podcast, he's got a channel. You know, let me just see what the platform's looking like, man. So this is his channel, Bet with Quet, all right? This is the official channel of Hernandez Govern, okay? He's now making content, okay? He's reacting to stuff. So shout out to him, man. You got to give him his respect, okay? He was cleared of any wrongdoing in the case. And basically, like, I'm basically trying to decide if I'm going to have a conversation with him. So we're going to work this out. If you guys want to see me have that conversation, okay, let's clear the air. If he wants to set the record straight, I'm down to do it. Okay, we got his channel here. I'm down to pop up, okay? So right now, all right, the ball is in your court, Hernandez, okay? It was no disrespect. I'm not trying to have any beef. I really don't want to get no. I don't know if I can even go to Memphis now with what's going on, okay? But I do want to clear the air. If you want to set the record straight, if you want to clear up this paperwork, let's do it. You can come on my platform. I'll come on your platform, and we can just set the record straight, because I really don't want these problems. But at the end of the day, I do feel like a lot of people are just a little bit upset, because I've put out a lot of facts about the Memphis scene that maybe weren't so well known or weren't so seen. If that paperwork's fake, I'm willing to throw my hands up and say it was fake paperwork. It shouldn't have been put out there. I can trim it out of the video. But if it was real, maybe it was misinterpreted. Maybe the police kind of spun it a certain way that it wasn't meant to be spun. Maybe they were kind of, maybe they were writing like he was cooperating more than he really was, because that was a police report. That wasn't a sworn statement by him. But yeah, look, if you want to know the full backstory, man, go and watch the video that I did about the young Dolph case, Murder Memphis. I break everything down. I got stuff that you'll have never heard anywhere else. Okay, we got all kinds of information in there, all of the gang. I know it gets super confusing because there's so many conflicting gangs, but I just wanted to make things absolutely right, on point to understand. But if people are telling me things in that video are wrong, that are really involved, that are really, I mean, he was on trial for this young Dolph murder, okay? So I just want to get to the truth. My first and foremost responsibility is to the truth. I'm willing to have a conversation with Hernandez Govern. I'm willing to break it down. So you guys let me know, man. Let me know down in the comments. Do you think we should sit down and have a conversation? Is it not worth having that conversation? Am I out of bounds? Am I out of line with what I said? I was really just trying to put all of my research out there together. So you guys let me know what you think, man. Let me know what you thought of the video. And you know what I'm saying? We'll see if that conversation ends up happening, man. But I will catch you guys in the next video. Stay tuned for more 6ix9ine clips. I got some more reactions coming for you guys. Okay, I'm back to it. I appreciate everybody watching, and I'll see you there. Peace.